All right, welcome back for the episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Wednesday, May 18th, 2023. If you're not done so already, please give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts and analysis. Anyways, let's get into it today. So a lot going on. Another solid update here for the market. But so much for kind of the rotation talk, right? There was some of that last night as we had kind of a good day. Some other sectors got a bid, XLE, XLF. The Russell 2000 was up nicely yesterday. KRE is green here, but it's, more fractionally higher than anything. And it's back to the big tech show. And interestingly enough, there's a lot going on. So if we look at the dollar index, and we pull up that dollar chart. By the way, Bitcoin taking a little bit of a hit here today. So still kind of below that neckline there. But DXY is surging and has been surging all day long. And that's continuing to hold up really well. And we look at bonds getting hit. So a pretty big divergence here. We can look at the yield. 2-year yield, that is up 2.72%. So kind of flirting with this pivot here around 428.6. 5-year up 3%, 10-year up 2.3, and the 30-year up 1.2. So bond land kind of signaling a divergence here, specifically with tech. If we look at other sectors here, the Russell that just went green again, but that was red for quite a while. It was red for at least half of the day here. Dow transports are still red, although they're getting a little bit of a bid here now, almost flat. Some of this may be Opex related. Again, we look at the triple Qs here; those are obviously leading the market here up just under 1.5%. We are coming into a lot of resistance though, and again, we showed the levels yesterday. Again, obviously the RSI divergence there, but take a look at where we're coming into with declining volume. Lots of heavy volume into this area here. Lots of supply. But again, as long as the market remains, the volume remains light, nothing to say they can't continue to float us up here a little bit. Although I do think risk reward is starting to get pretty skewed to the downside. Also, Powell tomorrow will be speaking. I'd have to think I would think that he's not too happy with the way the NASDAQ is trading right now. But, we maybe still be seeing some put decay as we get into Opex. And, the markets are squeezing up, obviously led by NVIDIA. That's just really unbelievable move here, up almost 5.5% there. I guess it's just 5.5% more valuable today. So NVIDIA continuing to surge here. AMD having a nice day as well, up just under 4%. So these semis are really squeezing up. We talked about that. New 52-week highs and new 52-week highs for the Qs. So continuing to be tech-led, but really more of the same story here. It is tech-led and breadth is terrible. We did have a little bit of a kind of dump in the middle of the day here. Democrats talking about they weren't close to a deal on the debt ceiling, so we had a little bit of a sell. But this is just shows you how much BS it is, because we were ramping up, yesterday when there was talk of a deal getting done, and this was the amount of the sell that we had when it looked like it wasn't going to get done. So again, the market's going to do what it wants regardless. Again, it's just, for me, the debt ceiling talk is just for them to push the markets around as we get into as we are into Opex week here, and as we get close to Opex Friday. But market's pushing up here and set to close basically at the highs of the day. I'm doing this video a little early, so we do have the live stream at 4 o'clock for members here. But either way, if we go over to the spiders here, again, we talked about that 418 level, and that basically got tagged today. So we talked about this measured move that got hit. There's also a book map order right here at 4,200. That looks like it wants to fill as we are pushing up here. And again, that does coincide with that high around 418 and change. If we continue higher on the spiders, again, the area here is 420 to 422. Can't rule that out. Maybe the triple Qs can get to 340. I can't rule that out either. They haven't shown signs of slowing down. Very extended, very overbought. We're now parabolic here. But at the same time, you got to respect the price action, and that's really the bottom line here. Again, if we get over to the Russell 2000, you can see we're up just 31 basis points. I still see a lot of resistance above 180, but it's hanging in there, and as long as the market is up, it'll probably hold up as well. The Dow just flattish to positive here. Again, the Dow lagging as well, but again, it'll hold up as long as tech holds up for the most part. How long can it last? Well, we'll see. Semiconductors, as we talked about, new 52-week highs, big move there. Just vertical squeeze. I didn't think there was that much upside in here. Maybe there is a little bit more, but obviously wrong on that account. We are going into a lot of weekly chart resistance though, and again, lots of volume up here on declining volume, but it has pulled back, so we'll respect it here for the meantime. But again, just and a lot of this SMH here, to be honest, is NVIDIA at this point. So if NVIDIA is up, and if NVIDIA is up 5%, the SMH is going to be green. Needless to say, their valuation is absurd, but you know what? The market doesn't care about that right now. And we're seeing a lot of put decay. So that can, still trade up here. How much upside is left? I don't really know. It's getting extremely long in the tooth, but it's been long in the tooth for a while. So again, we'll continue to respect it. IGV also having a nice day. That's through that gap at 310. So big squeeze up there. And you now can get up to that 315 area. So that's where that next gap is. And then, the pivot high there. And then, of course, if we go back on the weekly, there's that pivot low, very, very good POC. And, of course, that 100-day moving average above. Over to the Dow Transports. Again, we talked about the weakness there. That is still red on the day. And, again, weakness in the weekly chart pattern and really in the daily, too. But, again, what can you say? It's the big tech show here. Again, this will be a problem moving forward. It's just a matter of when does the market care about it. Either way, let's get over to the 2-year. So we talked about that a little bit. ZT, that's losing support here. This is on the futures, right? So the 2-year yield's a little bit different. The base yield anyway. Futures losing support. And again, markets, this is a big divergence here. The 10-year is above all these pivots here from, going back to March and April. And then the 30-year here, same thing. This is starting to break out here on the yield. TLT breaking down. QQQ just zooming higher. So lots of divergences going on, distortions. Again, the dollar index at the highs of the day, 103.58. So again, big picture, this is all very, very bearish stuff, and these jaws will snap shut. It's just a matter of how and when here, and how much farther can we squeeze. Speaking of squeezing, home builders, XHB looking like it wants to tag double top. They may do that as early as tomorrow. ITB still in an uptrend, and that is still holding up really well. Unless you get a reversal, these can still go higher. And then the VNQ bringing up the rear here. This is one of the weaker sectors really in the whole market here, down 1% on the day, and kind of an inside bar pattern starting to build up. And this is also red in a massively green tape. So again, lots of weakness there from the VNQ for XLF. Again, trying to get back above these moving averages. It's holding up a little bit better. Again, he's starting to have higher lows, but still lower highs here, and I still don't love the weekly pattern. That's more akin to a bearish inside bar than anything, but it's holding up. And KRE here, that's really all over the map here, just fractionally higher. KBE, same thing. Again, I think we're seeing some put decay in those going into Opex broker dealers. Also, a little bit of an inside hammer. This is okay for right now for a move to 450 potentially. Crude here, it's down 1.18% on the day. Again, I told you yesterday, I'm not in love with the pattern here. Struggling with that 20 MA. If you get above the 20 MA, you can get a pop up to 76. And again, that would be a retest of this big trend line here and the 20-week moving average. But until then, I'm just neutral really on the crude chart. XL East hanging in there. Still don't like the pattern here. It's up 38 basis points right now, but you violated that trend line too many times. I think these, oil plays need to go lower. XOP with a decent up day, up 1.5%, getting above that 20 moving average. But again, nothing great there. You can make a case that this is all just bear flagging, even kind of on the weekly there. So you're still inside of that red bar. So just be aware of that. And then OIH up 0.75%, holding onto that 100-week moving average. But again, I don't like the pattern here below those moving averages. If you lose this, you're probably headed down into that 220, maybe even 215 zone. All right, nat gas, the big rock star of the day here, up over 10%. We got the inventory. If we just break this down here, the inventory number came in way less of a build than expected. I think it was like 90 to 108 or something expected. And like I've said for the last 2 months, nat gas is, I think it's bottomed here anyway, but it's going to bottom, and there's going to be accumulation before the inventory numbers approval. What do we have here? A bottom, and then some accumulation, a higher low, bull flag, another bull flag. So again, smart money is not going to wait for the number to improve. Now it's too late. So, you're chasing it at this point. And again, we talked about that 250 level. You get through that, and you get a nice squeeze. And, we blew through it, got a pop, little pullback, and it's holding the gain. So shorts on the retreat here. This will have a little resistance here at that 100 moving average. You got a little bit of kind of a chop area right there, consolidation area. So it may need to pause here, but big move up for Natty, up over 10%. And I think this wants to work its way to $3 in the not too distant future. Doesn't mean it's going to go, every day up 10%, but you know, it's had a nice move, and the shorts set up camp here and they got squeezed out. So we'll see if it can pull back off that 100 MA. But either way, big move there in natural gas. Again, we talked about the dollar here, big divergence, right? So it's basically at the highs of the day as the, you know, it is at the high close of the highs of the day as the market, you know, continues to chug higher. So again, a divergence there. I think the dollar is more than likely put in a bottom here. Again, if we go over to the weekly, just to briefly show you, you know, you close above that 20-week moving average in 102.80. I like the case for the dollar having a bottom in here. And I've been talking about this. I got trolled for this. You know, you guys made fun of me for saying that gold's going to come back in and that the dollar is going to rally. And here we are. So gold now looking poised to test that 100-day moving average, possibly this trend line here. And I believe that is the weekly trend line going back to the all-time high. So, you know, right in that area around 1900 would be a good level for a bounce for gold, but it did pull back here, continuing to pull back, as was silver. So right into 2350. We've been talking about that for the last 2 weeks, and that's where we went. That's where we got support. Should get a little bit of a bounce here. I still think it has lower to go, but for right now, short-term oversold and into very good support. So I like silver for a possible bounce here. Maybe Powell can do something and say something to the, you know, give him a lift tomorrow. We also have Permadov Bernanke speaking as well. I'm very interested to see what he says. The platinum here backing off as well. Again, I like this on the bigger time frame, and the same thing with palladium also backing off. I like that on the bigger time frame. Copper here starting to bear flag on the daily. I no longer like 360 as daily chart support, especially the longer we coil up here and bear flag. This can go lower, but for right now, it's holding up, so we'll leave it at that. All right, over to Bitcoin here. So Bitcoin breaking down a little bit. So again, you can kind of, you know, I had this trend line here yesterday. You can make a case it closed above it. You could also go here and say, well, we touched it yesterday. If you want to just let the, if we can get it right there, try to get it exact. You could say that, you know, this was a pierce. You know, technical analysis is art more or less than a science sometimes. But either way, you know, backed off of this level. You lose this pivot, it's, you know, 25 won't be good support. I think you got to go to 24 there. But Bitcoin definitely diverging here as well from the rest of the market. It's definitely behaving kind of more like gold here in an inverse trade of the dollar, whereas the NASDAQ is just pushing to new highs here as we get into the 330 time frame. Again, looks like that 4,200 level. Yeah, they'll probably want to fill that. Look at the contracts there, over 1,000 on the ES. That's likely going to fill. But for right now, markets are holding up. We'll see if we can get up into that 420, 422 area here on the SPY. Maybe that's 340 triple Qs. But either way, I still think the rally is pretty long in the tooth here. A lot of it has to do with put DK, if you ask me. But in any case, we'll respect the market until proven otherwise. Anyways, guys, going to wrap up here. You guys take care. Come find me on CarnivoreTrades.com. I'll talk to you all tomorrow.